Welcome to The Age Hack, a longevity lifestyle podcast. As always, I'm here with the lovely Fiona.
Pleasure.
Be sure to check out The Age Hack online. You can find us on IG, theagehack_pod. Just send us a DM if you're a longevity lover with any ideas or if you're just enjoying the show. Fee, we've got a great episode today chatting about the ever-popular Mediterranean diet and what in the world Bryan Johnson is up to at the moment. He's been trying some weird and wonderful new therapies. Let's get started.
Paul, you sent some products across to your best friend Bryan Johnson the other week.
Yes, we did. Yeah, so he got a tub of the Age Hack Live, which we're super excited for the king of longevity to try. The NMN, NRs, the basic collagens like Verisol, clinically proven to reverse wrinkles on the face, double-blind placebo study, 114 females over 2 months, reduced wrinkles by over 20% on the face.
What's that, the collagen?
The Verisol collagen, yeah. And a few little eye masks and drink bottles, etc. So I heard it got delivered last week, so super excited to get some feedback from Bryan Johnson himself.
You haven't heard yet?
No, not yet. Yeah, I probably should send him an email to follow up how it's going.
Yeah. Maybe let him know how to take it. Does he know how to take lip? I
mean, it is on the bottle.
Did you talk about it?
But I think we did. Yeah, when in Singapore when we saw him, I think I talked about it. Have it every day, hold it in the mouth, etc. But yeah, I probably should follow up with an email with that.
So for those that don't know, take it every day, hold it in the mouth. What does that mean? Because I think on the packaging of Live it says to take it once or twice daily, something.
Yes, that's right.
But you've got a special
one
method.
Scoop twice a day. You can just do once a day. Obviously, NMN and these high-quality NMN-based ingredients can be quite expensive.
Sure.
So some people might not want to do the 2 scoops, might only want to do 1 scoop per day. The best way to take it, any NMN product, as long as it's quality and fermented grade, is to mix it in a little bit of water and hold it under the tongue to absorb sublingually through the mucosa, just for a minute or two. I like to hold it for 5 minutes just because I'm maximum effort, Paul. And then just swallow it down. And the same with the Live. And it's best before your first meal because that's when your sirtuins, which are your hero enzymes, are naturally most active.
Right. And so you said hold it under the tongue so it absorbs sublingually. That's better than the gut, better than absorbing it through the gut? Is that what you're sort of saying?
Yeah. So when we absorb things through the gut, it has to then be broken down with acid, move its way into the small intestine, enzymically broken down further to absorb through the intestinal wall. And sometimes some ingredients will have an issue with that, or maybe it takes longer, or maybe some of it gets broken down. If you can absorb it through the sublingual mucosa, you can get it into the bloodstream very quickly and efficiently and a lot more pure in essence. It's just a better way to absorb it if it can move through that area. If it can't, there's no point in holding it under the tongue. It's not going to do anything. Then you swallow it. But in the case of NMN and NR, they're really well absorbed through the mucosa under the tongue.
Cool. And so you shared that with Bryan Johnson?
I did in Singapore, but I'm sure he'd know that already. But I probably should follow it up with an email.
Yeah.
And like I said, it fuels the enzymes, our hero enzyme sirtuins, and they're most active in times of fasting. So that's why it's really good to have it before your first meal.
Yeah, cool. Well, keep us posted if you hear back from him.
Oh, yeah. In a podcast, the next podcast after I've heard back from him, we're definitely talking about it.
Love it.
Excellent.
So onto our Blue Zone wisdom of the week, coming from Ikaria in Greece. It's a tiny little island, sort of off the coast of Turkey. It looks amazing. We were in Turkey recently and I thought, oh man, we could just nip over there and have a look, see what's happening in the Blue Zone.
And maybe add 10 years onto our life.
Do you
just
think
for being there.
just a visit?
Maybe that's not the way it works.
I mean, it'd be great if it
It'd
did.
be very romantic, yeah.
In Ikaria, the average lifespan is 81 to 82 years of age.
Okay.
Yeah,
yep.
So about 8 to 10 years older than the average human population.
When initially you started saying that, I thought that's not that old. But when you explain, hey, the average for a male is only 71, 72 worldwide, then 82, 83 or 81, 82 it's a long innings as an average.
Yeah, absolutely. And so about 30% of the population live into their 90s.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Unreal.
But what I actually want to speak to from Ikaria is the ultra popular Mediterranean diet, which I think, it's been a term, it's been around for a really long time. Do you know what it is, Paul? Do you know what the Mediterranean diet entails?
Well, I do know lots of olive oil.
Sure.
Lots of fresh grown fruit and veggies like tomatoes, but it even involves homemade pastas, I believe.
Yeah, I think
from native grain.
Well, potentially from native grain, but I think that there is definitely a difference between when you look at like Greek, Turkish, Italian wheat products and comparing it with Australian wheat products, isn't there?
100%. And I've actually got my own anecdotal evidence. So if I eat Australian wheat products and bread, etc., I will get gut irritation. It shows up in pain and other ways. However, in 2018, when we went over to Germany and all I ate was bread and sausages for a week and pretzels, my gut had never been better. Digestion was amazing, no pain, everything was fantastic. And I'm thinking, this should wreck me. This diet should absolutely wreck me. And it helped me and it fixed me for a good long period of time. So yes, I know native grains, etc., the way that you treat wheat can make a big difference.
So what do you put it down to? Do you put it down to the farming? Do you put it down to the type of wheat? Do you put it down to the way that they actually make the pasta or the bread? What's your opinion on that?
There's a lot of factors in there, but definitely to start with the farming. Using glyphosate like Roundup to kill the weeds, it would be naive to think that, well, that's not making its way into the wheat. You can't wash it enough to get rid of this glyphosate. It's in the wheat. And what does it do? It kills bugs. So you treat the wheat. Sure, it's really healthy. There's no bugs, but you've got the glyphosate in there. If we're digesting that, that's killing our own gut biome. That's going to be messing with gut health. Also, you hear sort of horror stories of franchisee bakeries, sorry to mention, but, they'll put bird feathers and other additives in there to keep the bread from going stale and make it nice and fluffy.
I have not heard that.
Yeah. That's another one as well. So
that's crazy.
People don't realise what happens. They think, oh, we're eating
bread's bread.
But it's not necessarily. So, if you can get a really great organic sourdough and have that every time that you have bread, that'll probably change the game as well, because they can't be using glyphosate or unless it's misrepresented.
Yeah, and I think that's what a lot of people are kind of coming around to. There's so many people now making their own sourdough bread at home and kind of purchasing their flour from artisan loose produce places that import in Italian flour or German flour, that kind of thing. So, yeah, I think people are kind of getting wise to that bread isn't just bread,
Definitely.
So rounding up on the... Probably shouldn't use the word roundup.
Good job, man. Did you line that up?
Wrapping up on the Mediterranean diet,
yep.
You're absolutely right. So heaps of fresh produce, homegrown vegetables, whole grains, preferably not full of glyphosates and maybe even made into sort of sourdough. Legumes, talked a little bit about legumes and beans.
For you.
Yeah. Nuts and seeds, healthy fats, which I think we talked about. You mentioned lots of olive oil. We're lucky enough to have my dad bringing fresh olive oil, Australian olive oil, which is really high quality. Every year we get about, how many litres of olive oil do you think we get through?
He's got hundreds.
Yeah,
so
he's got stacks.
We have a 10-litre stainless steel container that we fill up 2 or 3 times per year.
So we're drinking 20 to 30 litres of olive oil
annually. And Barry, your dad, he's getting down on the farm. He's using that special whizzy long stick thing to knock the olives off, collect them, and then takes them to processing, freshly processed, and then gets the olive oil fresh. It's not travelling over the equator. Even Spanish oil has to go on a boat, passes over the equator, exposed to heat, in these long boat rides. And we don't know how long it's been. Is it a year since it's been processed? 2 years? Were they storing it because they had a really bumper crop? And fresh olive oil and all real oils in general will degrade, and oxidize. And then they lose the the benefits, the biological benefits. So if you can get it fresh, not being transported, not being exposed to heat, it keeps alive a lot of the healthy parts of the oil that have a really great longevity effect on the body.
Yeah, and I think Australian olive oils are such high quality, and also I don't know if there's anything to it, but you get that pepperiness in the back of the throat.
There is actually. The mild olive oils will still have some good health properties, but they're not as rich in the micro and phytonutrients as a really peppery, you get even a burn. It's almost like chili in the back of your throat with a high quality, potent olive oil. And since we're called the Age Hacker Longevity Lifestyle podcast, let's talk about olive oil and how it actually is great for longevity. So it's been clinically proven that starvation will prolong life. And we're talking by up to 30% if done correctly. Olive oil mimics starvation. So when the body is in starvation mode, our fat releases oleic acid, which is a form of fatty acid in our body as a fuel source. It goes, look, we're starving, you're not eating, so let's release oleic acid so we've got some energy. Olive oil is high in oleic acid, but the good olive oil, not the bad olive oil, the heated olive oil. This will change and oxidize and not have the same effect. So a fresh, high-quality, peppery olive oil being high in oleic acid tricks the body into thinking it's starving because we've got a lot of oleic acid in our system, and it turns on these hero enzymes which protect DNA from degradation.
I didn't know that was how it worked.
There you go.
That's awesome. That's so cool.
So highly recommend putting olive oil fresh. You don't really want to cook with it because it's got a low heat point, flash point. But put fresh olive oil on your salads, make your own healthy mayonnaise. Never use vegetable oils, canola or sunflower under any circumstances ever. And use olive oil when you can. It's really fresh, local olive oil, very healthy.
Oh, I feel
and great
so
for
good.
longevity.
I just had a tablespoon before we came here, so I feel
And
really
how are
good
you feeling
about myself.
now?
I mean, I feel proud of myself for having olive oil, but other than that, I don't know.
There you go.
We'll very quickly finish wrapping up on the Mediterranean diet because we got about halfway through and got
A little bit
sidetracked.
sidetracked. I think the audience needed to know this.
No, I agree. So after olive oil, it was limited red meats and dairy. So like a little bit of red meat, lots of fish, a little bit of yogurt, a little bit of cheese.
Omega-3s from the fish, that's great. I won't start on that because this will blow the podcast out.
Oh, yeah, and don't get us started on the Parmigiano Reggiano, right?
Oh, fantastic. The king of cheeses.
The king of cheeses. Limited alcohol, red wine. We've spoken about that previously. And really just avoiding processed food and sugars, etc.
And don't they usually exhibit, because, in the Mediterranean, they're largely Catholic or other religious denominations, times of fasting where they might not eat on a sort of a Friday or a Sunday?
Yep. Yeah, they do. I'm trying to think of which blue zone particularly that's coming from.
Maybe that's not the blue zone you just mentioned.
It could be.
Yeah.
I haven't got it written down here, but definitely most of the blue zones have either dedicated time for fasting or things like Okinawa in Japan where they eat until they're 80% full. So it's kind of mimicking fasting, I suppose.
Yeah.
Calorie restriction. But yeah, Mediterranean diet is amazing. It's shown to be largely anti-inflammatory and reduce the risk of cardiovascular disease.
Amazing. I think it sounds delicious too. We should all be doing that at least.
Yeah, well, we've kind of been following it loosely for a little while now. And how are you finding it?
I mean, when we follow it, it's amazing. You just feel so clean.
Yes,
You're not eating anything packaged, meaning you're avoiding most sugars, processed foods, omega-6 rich sunflower and vegetable oils, and you just notice how clean you feel.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's hard to do all the time if you're busy and you're on the go. But when you're on it and you stick to it for a week or two solid, you definitely notice the difference.
Love it.
All right, Fiona. So what crazy shit is Bryan Johnson up to at the moment? And for those that don't know who Bryan Johnson, quickly, who is he?
Yeah, well, look, he definitely is up to some wild behaviour, and I'm super excited to get your opinion on this. But for those who don't know, Bryan Johnson is a tech multimillionaire who's basically become a lifelong running science experiment. He's dedicated his life to science in the field of longevity, and he's invested, it'd have to be tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands into all sorts of different longevity.
I actually know his budget.
What?
It's $2 million per year.
Well, there you go. $2 million a year purely on his longevity protocols and experiments.
Yeah. On himself.
Yeah, on himself. Yeah.
So what crazy stuff has he done now?
So he recently was speaking about a procedure he underwent called a total plasma exchange.
Wow, okay.
Do you know much about this?
TPE, yes.
Yeah. So basically, for those who don't know, he removed all of the plasma in his body and replaced
it with albumin, don't they?
Yeah, replaced it with albumin. So you know a little bit about it.
Yeah. So
why would you do this?
You can take out a lot of toxins that are in your plasma. So plasma is, and I'm sure you know, but you cut yourself and you get the red blood cells. Plasma is the clear yellowy liquid that might come out first or surround it. And it contains a lot of toxins and moves things around the body. So if you can take all of that out and the body will produce new plasma, it's fresh and you've removed a lot of toxins that can cause a lot of damage to the body.
It's super interesting. I'm aware of donating plasma because I've seen them do that at the blood donor centres, and they kind of put it through, is it like a centrifuge?
Yeah, that's right. So you'll draw blood in general and then they'll put it through a centrifugal force, so spin it really fast and the
plasma will separate. And then they actually, when they're doing it in the donation of blood, they actually put the blood back into you.
That's correct.
Without any plasma.
That's right.
And they're not replacing it when they're doing that with albumin, are they?
No. So albumin is a form of heavy protein.
I thought it was in egg whites.
Yes, sort of, but obviously they're not putting egg whites in. But it's a form of protein that absorbs a lot of nutrition and toxins as well. But putting fresh ones in, that fresh albumin in that's clean, is also very healthy for the body. Can then soak up a lot more toxins as well.
This whole thing just seems crazy to me. How can they take out plasma and replace it with something completely foreign? Is it risky? It sounds risky.
Well, I don't think it's risky, but you'll feel weird. The body has to go into overdrive to produce more plasma, clean plasma, which is great.
Right.
But you'll definitely feel weird. But initially you'd think, hey, the person might die. There's no plasma. But no. Within, not too long, you start feeling great.
Okay, amazing. I thought that the caption on his Instagram that he wrote about this was really interesting. Shall I read it?
Well, I haven't read it, so I'd love to hear it.
Okay, cool. So he said, similar to what you've said, the therapy objectives are to remove toxins from my body. The evidence is emergent. So I gather that it's quite new. Others use TPE for autoimmune disorders, blood disorders, neurological conditions, transplant-related complications, and replacement of missing plasma components. Not quite sure what a few of those mean. Missing plasma components.
I'm not too sure on that one either. As you said, the
evidence is emergent. As we normally do, we completed a bunch of baseline measurements before the therapy, including toxins, but other things too, such as speed of aging, organ ages, microplastics, and other biomarkers.
Right, yeah.
So this was the first of 6. So he's going to do this 6 times. He said, the operator who's been doing TPE for 9 years says that my plasma is the cleanest he's ever seen. By far, he couldn't get over it. When we finished, he couldn't bring himself to throw it away. He was imagining all the good that it could do in the world.
Liquid gold, hey?
Bryan Johnson's plasma. On people's faces as PRP therapy, in their body, rejuvenating organs. There is probably a path to auction off or donate my plasma on the next go around. Liquid gold.
Amazing.
That's what he said.
Oh, did he?
He
Really?
said liquid gold. And then the final paragraph was, remember that when my father received 1 litre of my plasma, his speed of aging dropped by 25 years and stayed that way for 6 months. We don't know if it was from my superplasma or if it was from removing his plasma, but the results are interesting nonetheless.
I would say it'd be a combination.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I'm surprised that you've actually heard of that. I thought I was going to surprise you.
No, yeah, I've heard of it.
Do you want to see a picture of him with his plasma?
Sure. Does it look like a goldy colour?
Let me hold that up there.
Can we see that? Yeah, it's geez, that is a lot. How many litres is that? That's like 5 or 6 litres.
I'm not sure. I don't know how many litres of plasma there are in the human body.
That's a good question. It looked like a lot.
Yeah. Amazing, right?
Yeah.
Crazy shit.
Liquid gold.
Thanks, Bryan Johnson, for being so wild and letting us observe all of this.
I wonder how much this process is as well.
How much it costs?
Yeah.
I'll have a look.
You're going to Google it?
I'll have a quick Google. This website says 10,000 USD.
Right, okay. So 6 times 60,000 USD on 6 little treatments, which seems like a lot, but it's just a flash in the pan.
It's over 100,000 Aussie, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Amazing.
But I think, like I said, he's got 2 million American to spend a year. So this is hardly a blip on his budget.
Fair play.
Yeah.
Interested to see how it goes.
Yeah, let's watch this space.
Mm-hmm. So, Paul, we have come to your favourite segment of the podcast where you get to talk about supplements and ingredients for a minute.
Okay, let's see if I can keep it to a minute.
And I had a listener question about one ingredient in the product Live. So the ingredient in Live is called PQQ. I'm not too sure how to pronounce the long form of that ingredient, but basically wanting to know what are the differences between PQQ and CoQ10, which is better, and what are they?
So they are different compounds. They're working on the mitochondria of our cells. So when we're looking at anti-aging, typically we're looking at DNA integrity and DNA length. Growing DNA can reverse aging. But the other side of aging is mitochondrial death and dormancy. So by the age of 40, 40% of our mitochondria are dead or dormant. By the age of 90, 90% of our mitochondria are dead or dormant. And mitochondria are the engine rooms of all our cells.
That's year 10 chemistry.
That's biology.
Oh, biology.
Yeah, same but different, right? So if we can stop the death and dormancy of mitochondria and grow new mitochondria, we can stop aging and then grow new ones and reverse aging from our mitochondrial viewpoint. So what CoQ10 will do is maintain health and integrity of mitochondria. Usually you want ubiquinol, which is the final form. So you can go ubiquitocaratone, there's a 1 in the middle, and then the final activated form is ubiquinol. Some people can convert the first form into ubiquinol. Some people can't, but everyone can utilize ubiquinol. So best bet is now just to buy ubiquinol, and all your bases will be covered unless you know your genetic makeup and if you can convert it or not. So ubiquinol, as mentioned, will maintain integrity and the health of the mitochondria. PQQ will do the same through slightly different mechanisms. However, it's also been shown to create mitochondrial biogenesis, which is the creation of new mitochondria. So PQQ would be the one to put in a longevity product because we're not just trying to stop aging in a longevity product, we're trying to reverse it. So PQQ is what we would take, and we want to do 10 milligrams once or twice per day as the dose. With CoQ10, it's 150. So really great to take them together if you had the option. But CoQ10, you'd need a bit more. So you'd take that separately and then you'd put PQQ by itself or in a longevity formula, which the Age Hack did in Live.
Right.
And that's the difference.
So increase mitochondrial energy, and PQQ will basically re-energize or create new mitochondria.
Exactly. It'll rebirth dead. It will re-energize dormant and create new mitochondria in our cells.
Amazing.
Yeah, an amazing ingredient. Does a lot of other great things, anti-inflammatory and all these other great things, but creates new mitochondria.
It sounds quite unique.
It is, and it's hard to find in ingredients, you know, and it is quite an expensive ingredient. And you want pharmaceutical grade, and that's everything
As
that you
with
get
everything,
in Live.
yeah. Cool. This is so cool. we're at one of my favourite parts of the podcast where I get to talk about amazing people doing incredible things at a later stage in life.
Mm-hmm.
And this week I want to chat about Iris Apfel, who...
Iris?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's
Do you
an
want to
old
have a guess
female
how
name.
old?
I would guess that she would be 87.
Well, she passed away earlier this year at the age of 102.
Good innings.
But her story is just amazing. She became a famous model at the age of 97.
Right, so she had 5 years
Yeah.
of being a famous model.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay,
Yeah.
tell us more.
So she was born in New York, as so many of the best people in the world are just born in New York. Just seems to be everybody.
Well, have we had other famous old people that have done great things born in New York on this podcast?
Oh, I know of one other one that I was looking at today, but I just
We'll
know.
talk about that one later.
Yeah, we'll talk
Okay.
about them later.
Another
But
episode.
I just think there's a lot of great people that are born in like Queens and in New York, and I could probably bring up a list, but might be a bit of a sidetrack.
Well, let's get back to good old Iris.
Iris. So yeah, Iris was born in Queens, New York. Her parents had a fashion boutique when she was younger, and later in her life she became an owner of a textile company with her husband. And she was the interior designer for 9 of the USA presidents,
Wow, okay, that's a good resume.
from Truman to Clinton. But things really heated up for her when she turned 84. And her personal style was featured at the Met, you know, the Museum of Modern Art in New York, where they have the Met Gala and
Right, okay.
all that. Yeah, so her personal style was featured at the Met in an exhibition called Rare Bird in 2005, which kind of created this like viral sort of fashion icon around her when she turned 84.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And then 13 years later, she became a model.
Yeah, so in 2019, at the age of 97, she became a model with the prestigious agency IMG.
There you go.
Yeah, she had a really beautiful, bold style. I'll show you a photo. And she's had a couple of really nice quotes, which I always like to share at the end of a podcast. Her one in relation to her style and into fashion was that style should be fun, fearless, and individualistic. Fashion is a form of self-expression and doesn't have to follow trends or rules. And you might see why when I show you some photos.
Okay.
There is a documentary about her life released in 2014 called Iris. That's available on Amazon Prime if you want to know more about her. I wouldn't mind watching that one myself.
Put it on the list.
And she had this beautiful quote about the way that she lived her life. And I'll finish on this for today's podcast. She said, "I always knew that I had something more to offer. I believe that life should be lived with enthusiasm and curiosity. Don't take yourself too seriously."
Words to live by.
Yeah.
Good on you, Iris.
You want to see a photo?
Sure, I'd love to.
I think this was from the Rare Birds exhibition.
Wow. Yeah, very unique style. I like her glasses.
So trendy. Love it. So that's it for another episode.
That was fun.
Thanks so much for listening to the ACHAC podcast. Be sure to check out the ACHAC online. Or if you want to see more snippets and interesting bits of the podcast, you can find us on Instagram at the ACHAC_pod. Shoot us through any questions that you have about longevity or anything that you want us to explore. And next episode, I'm super excited as we're going to be chatting about a potential new heavy hitter in the world of longevity.
Sounds exciting. Is it a ingredient?
No, a person.
Oh, there you go. Someone new.
Yeah.
All right.
Watch
Looking
this
forward to
space.
that. See you next time, guys.